Hey guys, if you love listening to full stories, don't scroll away. This is a short story about a woman who stands strong and independent. It's rated incredibly high at 9.7 out of 10, and you can read the whole thing in one sitting, straight through to the ending. Here's how the story begins. The day I quit my job, news broke that Ethan White was rumored to be dating Isabella Stone, an A-list actress, and it instantly shot to the top of the trending list. The PR department couldn't get hold of him, so she called me. I told her I was no longer Ethan White's manager. After that, I hung up. The trending topic showed paparazzi photos. Ethan White and Isabella Stone having dinner together. In the flickering candlelight, their poses were incredibly intimate, truly a picture of a perfect couple. I calmly scooped the cold dishes from the table into the trash can, grabbed my suitcase, and left the mess behind me. From that day on, I had nothing to do with Ethan White. 7 years of history, I decided, were just wasted on a lost cause. They say if you comment sad after reading this part, the official account will send comfort your way, and everyone's experience is unique. I moved out of Ethan White's apartment and checked into a high-end, 5-star hotel in Los Angeles. The hotel had sent up a complimentary bottle of champagne to the room. After showering, I put on a face mask, leisurely sipped my champagne, and enjoyed the stunning view of the Los Angeles nightscape from the large floor-to-ceiling windows. Over the years, as Ethan White's manager, I'd certainly made a fortune. I wasn't worried about money in the short term. With my impressive resume, having managed Ethan White to stardom, finding another high-paying job would be easy. That's why I felt confident enough to just walk away, throwing my resignation letter on my boss's desk and telling them I was done. My boss was Ethan White's brother-in-law, and knew about our complicated situation. He looked like he wanted to stop me, to try and make me stay, but I politely declined his kindness, explaining that this was a well-thought-out decision. There was nothing more to say. Quitting felt incredibly liberating. I took a small sip of champagne, my mood very pleasant. To prevent anyone from disturbing my peace, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb before finally settling into bed and enjoying a good night's sleep. I slept until almost noon the next day. Waking up feeling refreshed and invigorated, I opened my phone and, as expected, found dozens of missed calls and hundreds of unread messages. I scrolled through them, picking and choosing, and first opened the chat with my best friend, Chloe. I sent her a voice message. She picked up almost immediately. Luna, did you see the trending news? She asked. Why did it take you so long to get back to me? Were you crying all night? I was shocked. Why would you think that? I replied. Hasn't Ethan White had enough scandals for you to think I'd have that many tears left to cry? Chloe sounded relieved. She probably figured that if I was still joking, my state wasn't too bad. She then asked, where are you now? Today, I've gotten so many frantic calls demanding to know where you are. Guess who? Even the big star called me, asking if you were at my place. I nodded casually. I guessed, I said, because I quit. Starting today, I'm not responsible for cleaning up his messes. And, of course, that includes not being responsible for sleeping with him. He can do whatever he wants. Next time he calls you, just block him. This time it was Chloe's turn to exclaim, Luna, after all these years, you're finally standing your ground. Before I could even smile, another call came in. The screen showed Ethan White in big letters. I thought for a moment, then told Chloe, hold on, I'll take this call. Some things are easier to settle directly. After all, I still need to work in this industry. It's better to part ways amicably than to make it hostile. There's no need for us adults to try and destroy each other. I stretched leisurely and slowly pressed answer. Hello? I said. Ethan White's voice, even through the phone, carried a hidden anger. Luna, you still have the nerve to greet me? I was puzzled. Of course, I said. People are always happy when something good happens. As for what good thing? My first day of being single. And I'm very happy. Ethan White's voice faltered. I don't want to talk about irrelevant things with you, he said. He seemed to adjust his mood, making himself sound calmer. My brother-in-law said you resigned. I affirmed. Then, I added helpfully, yes, but don't worry, I finished all the handover work a long time ago. I'd planned to resign for a while now. During all these years as Ethan White's manager, from the very beginning when he defied his family and ventured into the entertainment industry with nothing, I handled his social engagements, securing audition opportunities for him. Later, as his popularity soared, I diligently managed his fanbase, ensuring he had no worries outside of filming. I dedicated myself completely, almost to the point of exhaustion. My medical reports from the past 2 years always showed a multitude of red flags. Besides all that, I also had to deal with his real or rumored girlfriends, and their infighting. They all saw me as the main partner and tried to challenge me to prove their status. Ethan never bothered to intervene. He never cared about trivial matters between women. Only I was left in the eye of the storm, forced to navigate their drama. When did I decide to leave? I don't remember. Maybe it was the time I was hospitalized for a stomach hemorrhage in the early hours of the morning, sitting alone in the lobby getting in for drip. Or maybe it was after staying up all night coordinating fan comments, calling Ethan White to ask when he was coming home, only to hear a woman's laughter on the other end before the call was abruptly cut off. I didn't want to face Ethan White's potential anger, so I spoke before him. As for other matters, I've already moved out of that apartment in Regent's Park. The place might be a bit messy, but I've hired a cleaning service. They'll probably be there today or tomorrow. From now on, we shouldn't contact each other. If there's anything work-related, you can call my work number. That's all. Goodbye. I enjoyed a few peaceful days, eating and sleeping, going shopping and getting beauty treatments with Chloe. Life was incredibly pleasant, and even the fine lines around my eyes seemed to diminish. This kind of life was wonderful, but I'm not the type to just sit around doing nothing. Although being unemployed sounded appealing, as a working professional, I needed to get back on track, look for a job, and continue saving for my retirement. I stretched and sent a message to a manager I knew at Apex Entertainment. Quit my job, looking for work. Any internal recommendations? Apex Entertainment was a rival company to Ethan White's agency, but don't get me wrong, I wasn't going there to get back at him. When I was with Ethan White, the salary and benefits were definitely top tier in the industry. I wasn't about to settle for a meager existence just because we broke up, and Apex Entertainment was the only company in the industry that could offer similar pay. I'm not one to turn down good money, so I was all about focusing on my career. The next day, they got back to me, saving me the hassle of interviews and letting me go straight to onboarding. After all, having managed an Oscar-winning actor, my objective work standard was undeniable. Apex Entertainment was certainly thrilled about me joining them. However, the artist they assigned to me happened to be the very person Ethan White disliked the most. That was certainly unexpected. I closed the file, and Leo Black and I stared at each other. To be precise, I was the only one who found it surprising. This kid seemed to have known all along, looking at me with a mischievous grin, propping his chin up. Well, this is perfect, I said. Ethan White is definitely going to think I'm doing this to spite him. Leo shrugged indifferently. Who cares what he thinks? He said. Luna, you being assigned to me must be fate. I looked at his handsome face making a playful expression and couldn't help but tug at the corners of my mouth. Leo Black was a rising star who had exploded onto the scene in recent years, gaining massive popularity with an indie film. He was a prime example of someone with both massive fan appeal and acting talent. His career trajectory was somewhat similar to Ethan White's, which inevitably led to competition for roles. That's how their rivalry began. I'd met him on a set once. In that show, Ethan White was the lead, and Leo was the second lead. In the show, they were good friends and comrades, but off-screen, they were constantly bickering, never letting up. Leo was still young and hadn't learned to hide his emotions yet. He never had a pleasant expression when he saw Ethan White. However, he was always polite to me. Whenever he saw me, he'd sweet-talk me, calling me Miss Luna. This always made Ethan White's face darken, glaring at him intensely. Where was your previous manager? I asked him. Leo answered sweetly. Ms. Chen. She went home to rest during her pregnancy. I rubbed the bridge of my nose. Having lived a monotonous life for so long, facing such a vibrant, lively young person always made me feel a sudden sense of exhaustion. But since I was here, I would make the best of it. After all, having a talented artist under my wing wasn't a bad thing for me. Although I'd previously been on opposing sides with Leo, I'd always admired this kid. I felt he had an unyielding spirit. If he hadn't debuted a few years after Ethan White, who knows who would be the top actor today? Ms. Luna, Leo said, looking eager. I absolutely trust you. I'm going to work incredibly hard and reach the same level as that guy, White, as soon as possible, to really get back at him for you. He enthusiastically pumped his fist at me, his young eyes sparkling as if filled with countless stars. I couldn't help but smile, gently tapping his head with a file. Be more confident. I told him. It's not about reaching the same level as him. It's about surpassing him. I went back to the routine of running between gigs. I must say, Leo Black was a remarkably easy artist to manage. His personal life was clean, and his personality was endearing. In any film crew he was a part of, everyone was amused by him, and the atmosphere was excellent. One day, Leo was finishing up a scene, and I happened to be by his side, listening to him joke with the director. Leo's personal assistant suddenly walked up to me, looking troubled. "Miss Luna," she said, "someone's here to see you outside." I paused, at first not guessing who it was, but seeing her hesitant expression, I knew. Not wanting to trouble the young woman, I patted her hand and told Leo, "I'll be out for a moment. I'll be right back." She nodded gratefully. I sighed inwardly. Sigh. Ethan White, how did you sink to the point of harassing a young woman? I walked out of the set. Ethan White stood at the entrance, his face still bearing some unremoved makeup, scowling. Beside him, his new manager was likely trying to persuade him in a low voice. Ethan White ignored her, his gaze fixed on me. I nodded at his manager, and then greeted Ethan White. "All right, what's up? You're Leo Black's manager now?" Ethan White didn't bother with pleasantries, his tone immediately aggressive. He'd lost some weight since I last saw him, and the dark circles under his eyes couldn't be completely hidden by makeup, but his image management was no longer my responsibility. I simply responded, "Yes, I'm with Apex Entertainment. Don't misunderstand. It's not about you. Is that all you came to ask me?" Ethan White moved his lips but didn't speak. His eyebrows were furrowed, as if in great distress. Given the circumstances, I thought he should have realized I wasn't just throwing a tantrum, but had made a very serious decision, so I was surprised when he still asked, "When are you coming back?" As he said this, his voice grew softer, revealing a rare vulnerability, like a puppy drenched in rain. We'd known each other for years, and he knew I fell for emotional manipulation, not brute force. Before, he probably thought I was just acting out, so he deliberately gave me the cold shoulder. Now that he realized the seriousness of the situation, he came to lower his guard and play the victim. He was always like this, good at reading the room and understanding my thoughts, and that's why I repeatedly gave in to him, lowering my boundaries again and again. But times had changed. I looked into Ethan White's emotional eyes, but my heart remained still. Never had I felt so unshaken. We both knew that once I set my mind on something, there was no turning back. My love for him was like that, and so was my decision to let him go. Isabella Stone and I were just trying to generate buzz for our new show, he probably wanted to explain. I waved my hand. "First of all, why didn't you inform the company beforehand if you were generating buzz?" I said. "I'm not interested in that. Don't tell me about it. You're not my artist anymore. I don't want to waste my time on such pointless arguments. I have work to do." "Excuse me." With that, I turned and walked away. In the distance, I saw Leo Black, who had just walked out of the set, excitedly waving at me. I smiled and walked towards him, leaving Ethan White behind without a backward glance. That Ethan White would come looking for me was within my expectations. After all, we had 7 years of history. 7 years. Even if you just raise a goldfish, you'd feel a pang of sadness when you see it float belly up. The same applied to him for me, and me for him. After all, I had fallen in love with him so early on. That feeling had taken root and blossomed, deeply embedded in my heart, difficult to rip out. We were so young back then. Our meeting was a cliché story, yet sweet. A young heir who ran away from home, was hesitating in a fast food restaurant. When he met the shift worker, me, I saw him sitting in the restaurant for so long without ordering, so I handed him a messed up burger, one that was counted as waste. He nervously took the burger and said a dry thank you. He looked up, and I saw an incredibly handsome face. My heart skipped a beat. I admit I was swayed by his looks. I paid for a large order of fries myself, sat across from him, and started chatting. He told me he'd left home in a hurry and had been out for several days, so he had no money. I nodded. His eyes suddenly turned red, saying he hadn't realized how hard it would be alone. I had just moved out of my own home then, relying on part-time jobs during breaks to pay for my college tuition. Hearing his words, I felt a strong connection. Two kindred spirits sat in the fast food restaurant, sharing fries, eating and talking. He complained to me about how his family blocked his acting dreams, and I complained about how my family's severe gender bias prevented me from going to school. We talked for most of the day and finally exchanged contact information. Perhaps it was loneliness that brought us together. We huddled together for warmth, like two penguins clumsily pressing their bellies together to share a bit of heat. He found a way to borrow money for acting classes, and after I graduated college, I became his manager directly. At first, we signed with a small agency that exploited artists with various clauses. We studied every clause together. He was still playing extras on set in the dead of winter, while I fought the company for a spot on a reality show, putting together presentations for nights on end. Once, Ethan White told me, "It'll be alright once we make it, Luna, we're almost there." I always believed him. He was a good actor. He would eventually make his mark. He just needed an opportunity. All I could do was help him find that opportunity. Back then, we weren't together. We were friends, comrades. Looking back now, if we had stayed at that moment, the ending might not have been so ugly. Now, recalling many details from the past, I can't remember them all, but I still remember the first time Ethan White starred as the second lead in a show, and it became a massive hit nationwide. We were so excited that we hugged each other tightly. He held me so close, his strong arms wrapping around my entire body. In that most thrilling second, I felt the stiffness in his arm muscles, my chest pressed against his. I heard his rapidly beating heart. Ethan White slowly let go of me. In the darkness, his gaze was intense, almost burning me. The unrestrained eagerness from before was gone. He cautiously held my hand, as if it were a precious treasure, occasionally glancing at me, afraid I might refuse. His hand was slightly sweaty. I stroked his soft palm and intertwined my fingers with his. I didn't say anything. A smile spread across his face. "So, this is how happy it feels when the feeling is mutual." I truly thought we would always be together then. As Ethan White's show became a massive hit, we made it just as he said we would. I no longer needed to beg and plead. Scripts and resources came pouring in as if they were free. Ethan White took on roles, filmed, and steadily rose to fame, transforming into a highly sought-after celebrity. Even his family's attitude began to soften, and they reconnected with him as the person standing by his side. Of course, I was happy. He achieved success, and a significant part of it was due to my efforts. It didn't matter if others didn't see it. I only wanted the best for him. Of course, fame came with many unavoidable constraints. Ethan White's family set up a studio for him. As the scale grew, more and more staff surrounded him. Those days of huddling together, heads touching, reading scripts, were gone forever. The first 2 years were still fine. Although Ethan White was busy, he still liked to spend time with me when he rested. We would sit on the sofa, covered by the same blanket, watching the shows he acted in. He would complain to me about his co-stars not remembering their lines, just mumbling numbers to get by, and how he almost broke character laughing. I couldn't help but laugh. He suddenly stopped, gently pinched my face, and smiled, saying, "Luna, it's really good to have you by my side." I patted his shoulder and chided, "Why so sentimental?" He replied, "As long as you're here, I feel at ease." But Ethan White, who said such things, turned into a stranger I didn't recognize. Were there signs? I don't know. I don't know when it started, but we met less and less. When we did meet, we only talked about work. Ethan White was constantly involved in rumors. He didn't explain, and I didn't have the courage to ask. There were no more nights of snuggling together to watch TV. I neatly folded the small blanket from the sofa and put it away. It wasn't that we didn't argue. Once, I saw hickeys on his neck, and I confronted him about them. He gave a vague answer, which I wasn't satisfied with, and so we started a fierce argument. It was a really bad fight until he roughly shook my hand off, and scoffed, "What standing do you have to question me? As my manager? Or my girlfriend?" For a second, I froze, not because his question stumped me, but because suddenly, the person in front of me felt completely unfamiliar. The Ethan White I knew wouldn't say something like that. I remembered that I had never verbally confirmed our relationship. Holding hands, hugging, even sleeping together, did that automatically mean we were boyfriend and girlfriend? When he collapsed from exhaustion, I stayed by his side, never leaving, changing his drip. I bought gifts and wrote cards for every crew member on his set. Did all that entitle me to call myself his girlfriend? As he questioned me, what surprisingly flashed through my mind was his past laughter as he said, "Luna would definitely look beautiful in a wedding dress." All those past moments. In the glitzy entertainment industry, the hugely famous star probably forgot. Maybe he wasn't wrong. Maybe I was. I finally understood. I didn't expect Isabella Stone to contact me 2 days later. We sat in a coffee shop. It was a weekday afternoon, not many people, only 2 or 3 tables occupied. Isabella Stone took off her mask, revealing her bright, beautiful face. She greeted me very politely. "Ms. Luna, long time no see." I also greeted her. "Long time no see." When I was still Ethan White's manager, we were acquaintances. Like everyone else in this industry, she probably knew about my past relationship with Ethan White, but now that I'd moved to Apex Entertainment, there shouldn't be any jealousy issues. I picked up my hot chocolate and waited for her to speak first. Isabella Stone tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. That gesture was incredibly charming, and I had to admit, she was one of the top beauties in the entertainment industry. "Ms. Luna," she began, "actually, Ethan White asked me to explain the trending news to you." When she said that, I understood. Ethan White couldn't persuade me himself, so he sent her as an intermediary. "The PR stunt for our show was our company's idea," she continued. "If it caused you any misunderstanding, I apologize. There's nothing between Ethan White and me." I remained unmoved. "Okay, I understand," I said. "Thank you for specifically inviting me out to explain this, Ms. Stone." Isabella Stone looked at me steadily for a long moment. Then, she suddenly extended her hand. I was wondering what she meant when she spread her hand open. On her slender ring finger, there was a sparkling diamond ring. "I'm already married," she said, "but my husband isn't in the industry, so we haven't made it public." She gave a bitter smile. "I hope you can believe me, Ms. Luna. Ethan White said if I didn't explain clearly to you, he would expose my husband's information." I was speechless for a moment, thinking about it. It sounded exactly like something Ethan White would do. Our messy personal affairs involving someone else made me feel truly sorry. "I'm so sorry, Ms. Stone, for the trouble," I said, rubbing the smooth handle of my cup. "But the reason Ethan White and I broke up isn't because of you. He had so many rumors before, and I never cared then either." Isabella Stone shrugged. "That's what I thought too," she said, "but he insisted I talk to you, and I had no choice." I smiled. He probably wasn't willing to give up. So many years of feelings, cut off just like that. Forget him. Even I sometimes woke up in the middle of the night and stared blankly at the empty pillow beside me. Isabella Stone gently tapped her cup with her coffee stirrer. "To be honest, Ms. Luna, saying this now might be hindsight," she said, "but when I saw you before, I knew you two would break up. To be precise, we were never together." I corrected her. Isabella Stone didn't mind. "When Ethan White and I were filming a kissing scene, you were there too. After we finished, I was worried you'd be upset. He still skips the intimate parts when he watches my shows, saying they're upsetting to watch." She took a sip of her coffee. "But I saw you scrolling on your phone, occasionally looking up. I knew you didn't care at all." I didn't confirm or deny. I didn't remember the scene she was talking about. By then, I was already busy with the handover of my resignation and wasn't paying much attention to Ethan White. If he filmed intimate scenes, I naturally didn't care who he kissed or hugged. What did it have to do with me anymore? All those past pangs of jealousy, the bitterness and confusion in my heart, had long been worn away little by time. Days passed, one after another. I worked methodically every day. In the past 6 months since I resigned, my life has been very fulfilling. Leo Black's new album was doing well, and he said he wanted to treat me to dinner. I thought about it and suggested we invite all his staff. His spirits immediately fell, and he pouted. "Ms. Luna, you're such a spoilsport." I just smiled and didn't respond to his teasing. After work that evening, I gathered his assistant and stylist, and a whole group of us went to a hot pot restaurant owned by a friend of mine. Everyone was chatting and laughing, and the atmosphere at the table was great. The hot pot was steaming, and suddenly, a perfectly cooked piece of tripe appeared in my bowl. I looked up in surprise. Across the table, Leo Black smiled at me through the steam. I didn't touch my chopsticks, instead raising my glass to toast everyone. After dinner, everyone took taxis home. Leo Black didn't leave with his driver, instead lingering and walking over to me. "Ms. Luna, let me take you home." I shook my head, politely declining. It wouldn't look good if someone saw us. The summer evening breeze blew on me, dispersing the slight tipsiness I'd felt from the cellar.